All right, everybody. No Jayson Tatum, no problem at the TD Garden tonight. Celtics go up 2-0 on the Orlando Magic. We're going to break it all down for you, as well as Payton Pritchard, your sixth man of the year. That and more coming up next. This is a Green with Envy live post game coming at you. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. This is a post-game playoff special. Celtics now lead the Orlando Magic 2-0 in a best-of-7 series here with a 109-100 win without the services of Jayson Tatum, the first playoff game that he has missed in his entire career. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Benakis. Greg, no Tatum, doesn't matter. Celtics, 9-point win. And honestly, to me, once again, just very similar to something we said in game one. Never felt like we were ever going to lose this game.
I think we got to start with the MVP of this game. I think there was one person that kind of outshone everybody else on the court. And obviously, I'm talking about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. 1 for 9 from the field tonight.
We almost got a Kuzma.
KCP.
We almost got a Kuzma.
Almost got a Kuzma. 0 for 6 from 3 was just an absolute dud on the court. And it was only right that they continued to play KCP, being as dog shit as he was after he fucking fouled Jayson Tatum in game 1. Jayson Tatum misses his first ever postseason game. And it was good to have KCP out there because it was almost like having Tatum out there for the Celtics. He was that bad. It was wonderful. Loved every second of it.
Yeah, KCP has definitely become villain number one, and it's not going to last very long, I don't think, based on what we've seen through the
maybe
first
one
two
more
games
game in the Garden. Maybe.
Potentially, but he is certainly, at least over the weekend, he will definitely be the biggest villain on the internet for Celtics fans. Got into the mix a little bit today, came at Al Horford. Al Horford came right back. You don't come at Al. I'll tell you that right now. You do not come at Al. Al was not having it. That's just not going to happen. But Greg, let's go through this game here. Like we talked about last time, let's try to go through it sequentially, but I actually want to start pregame because we started to hear more about Tatum's wrist and, it's a bone bruise and, whatever the different locations are. And what it seems like from all the reporting that I've gathered day to day, it's going to be a pain tolerance thing. And, I'm curious because I know what my first thought was when he was officially ruled out. Number one, it worries me a little bit just because of how much Jayson Tatum never sits out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he just never sits out. So that worries me a little bit, but I'm going to take everything at face value, day to day. Is what it is. We'll kind of get updates as we go here, but specifically looking at this game, what was your first thought about how this game needed to change or how the Celtics approach needed to change, knowing that there was going to be no Tatum?
Honestly, man, I had a pretty busy day, just like life-wise. So I didn't even find out Tatum wasn't playing until game time. I didn't check.
Okay.
I wasn't checking the internet all day and all that stuff. So when I turned on the TV and I saw Tatum wasn't playing, I was like, oh shit, Tatum's not playing. So what does that mean for the Celtics? What it meant was they changed up their strategy and decided the Magic don't have a point guard. So we are going to press them the entire game. Whoever is near the ball, whoever's near a ball handler is going to get up in their jersey and just pressure the shit out of them and make sure that the guys that don't have tested handles get their handles tested.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is a game that honestly, I'm surprised both teams got over 100. I thought early on in this game, it was going to be a struggle to get into the 90s. But I think for me, one of the things that jumped to my mind, and I was curious how it was going to play out because we've obviously led up into the postseason, like what's going on with Jaylen Brown's knee, right? Like that's been a big concern. But taking the knee out of it, this situation is why you pay two guys $50+ million, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't hesitate about it, is because to win the championship, you're probably going to need both of those guys. If one of them's gone, you're just probably not winning. But in these early rounds, like the idea of having two $50 million guys is usually definitively the first round. If one of them goes down, you should still be, and of course, the rest of your roster matters, but that guy should be able to elevate you. And that's why you get a 1 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed in the regular season. Second round starts to get a little bit more murky, depends. You know what I mean? The later you go, it gets more murky. But this is why you don't hesitate when you have a top, whatever Jaylen Brown is, 13 to 20 guy in the league. And you're like, yeah, let's pair him with a top 3-4 guy in the league in Jayson Tatum. No problem. Here's $100 million per year, guys. Let's ride. We'll figure out the rest. And so because of that knee, I was like, I wonder what this is going to feel like. And, KP had a rough game, only 5 points in game one. And so to me, it was, okay, one of these two guys needs to get off to a good start. That's going to be imperative, because we need somebody else to kind of set the tone, because Tatum has gotten so good at feeling out a game of, do I need to score first, or can I go set my teammates up? No one has, right. I mean, Tatum's the point guard for this team, right? So you don't have that level of playmakers. So you kind of need the guys that are supposed to be your 20-point scorers to go get you some buckets early on. And I think Jaylen Brown, who shot the ball fantastic tonight, right? Like, I think that's a big development. And I think him getting 12 points early on, and then KP, as the first half goes on, just kept getting the mismatches and getting to the line. Like,
10 for
that
14
was huge
from the line for KP.
Exactly. Yep. And I want to start with Jaylen Brown, because I think this was a night where, Jaylen Brown, he did what a number 2 is supposed to do when the number 1 goes down, especially in this position, this time of the postseason. You slide up, finishes the game, 36 points, 12 of 19, extremely efficient, 5 of 7 from the 3-point line, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. Just a tremendous game from Jaylen Brown tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of it, man. JB in that first quarter was 4 for 7 from the field, 2 for 2 from downtown. And I think, when you think about Jaylen Brown coming into the season, he was always the Celtic that went off in the first quarter, right? It typically was not Jayson Tatum up until this year, where they kind of switched up the rotations, and Tatum ended up being the guy that would play the entire first quarter. But it was always JB in the past that would come out, shot out of a cannon. And it's nice to see him still be able to kind of flip that switch whenever he needs to, because the knee was a huge concern coming into these playoffs, to your point. And until the very end, where JB kind of was wincing a little bit when he got double teamed and had to come out of the game, I think Missoula just was like, you know what, we got through this game. I'm getting JB out of there. I don't need any bullshit happening with these Magic players playing dirty basketball. So, Jaylen was great in this game, man. This is why Jaylen Brown is an all-NBA performer. Like, if is able to play all 65 games and a healthy JB, like, Jaylen Brown can look like this whenever he wants to, man. His physicality on the court, on both ends of the court, was something special. A couple careless overuse turnovers, but other than that, I think Jaylen played a spectacular, flawless game.
Yeah, it's those 1 or 2 moments, and I really had to check myself during one of the ones later. I was like, listen, JV's been so awesome. Do not let that one moment sit in your mind when you should have given it up on a double team. And then right after that, he has a great drive off the right wing. This is later in the second half, with that little floater shot against Franz, and then the other, fade away from the mid-range, which I don't know if it touched the rafters, if it hit one of the banners in there. Like, he got a tremendous amount of arc on it. But I thought Jaylen set the tone early on. And KP, it took him a while to kind of find it, but I think he did a great counterbalance of just being like, I am going to insert myself in here. I'm going to match physicality, and I'm going to insert myself here and continue to create mismatches. And so, Greg, you said, like, from your first initial thought of no Tatum, is we got to lean into the defense. I thought the defense was really good all throughout this game for the Celtics, right? Yeah. I think they were really good up and down the board. There's like 1 or 2, they challenged the Magic to make shots, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? Because the Magic are not a good shooting team. And like, you rattled off KCP's stat line already. He's supposed to be one of the few quote unquote shooters that they have. And Wendell Carter, to his credit, knocked down a couple shots, but outside of that, outside of that, the Magic were really the same team that we saw in game 1. It's kind of all on Franz, Paolo, or bust, and that's probably how it's going to play out the rest of the series.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered most of the stuff that went down in the first half. A couple things to note though, in general, in terms of adjustments. I mentioned this in game one. I figured they would end up playing Batase in game two, and they did, right? But it wasn't Carter that ended up getting sent to the bench in the second half. It was Jonathan Isaac, right? Jonathan Isaac only plays 6 minutes all in the first half, doesn't see any time in the second half there. A little bit more Gary Harris from the Magic tonight. I think they liked what he was doing just ball pressure wise. I thought he was at least serviceable out there. And they played him in favor of Cole Anthony, right? They decided Cole Anthony and Jonathan Isaac, two guys that are pretty integral to their bench. They just decided, you know what, we're going to play Batase and Harris and hope for the best. And like, when those are your options, it's Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac, or Gary Harris and Goga Batase. There's a real talent gap there between the two teams. And there's a reason why the Celtics can still win a game with Jayson Tatum looking fly as hell. On the
I was digging that outfit
all the way to the top,
looking great,
all the way to the top. But it's just like such a clear difference in the talent of these teams. Paolo continues to look like, you know, a mix between LeBron, Giannis, and give me one more person that he looks.
You know
like
what, Greg? After watching Anthony Edwards last night, he was okay. I might be back on my Paolo take. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. But Paolo, dude.
The thing is, Anthony Edwards and Paolo are both phenomenal players.
Yeah, right. They're both going to be probably two of the faces of Team USA the next couple of years, and they're going to be, guys that are in the All-Star game, all NBA. But Paolo stat last night, just real quick: 32 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers.
That's crazy.
12 of 25 from the field, 6 of 11 from the free throw line. Yeah, he just continues to impress me. I just, it's hard to say much else about this Magic team because Franz can't shoot the three, which is his downfall, but he still has 25, 4 and 4. Like, he was still okay. He was still solid, but it's
he's
just
not the problem.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, I don't really know what else to do, but you brought up Goga, and I think we got to talk about the elbow heard around the Garden tonight, which was Goga coming down with that big elbow on Kristaps Porzingis, and we get an image that's going to last longer than the series is. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Of KP, just the blood, WWE style, for a guy that loves, MMA, UFC, WWE. You think back to last year in the finals, right, where they do the WWE style entrance for him to make his return in game one, the pop from the crowd. Number one, that dude loves hamming it up when he gets a chance to.
He's the best, dude.
And
he's the best.
It was such a cool moment. Obviously I'm glad it seems that he's going to be okay, but the blood dripping down and something I started thinking about going back to last game, Greg. I didn't realize that Joe Mazzulla was yelling at Jayson Tatum, "Get up, get up," with some real, yes, look at this photo, unbelievable from KP. And I didn't realize Joe Mazzulla was yelling that at Jayson Tatum with some real drunk little league dad energy, yelling at his kid right there.
So good.
Do you think he was doing the same to KP, or you think he's okay with KP's toughness?
Well, KP got up pretty quick, man, and I was kind of expecting KP to just like smear the blood all over his face and start licking his hands.
Ball up top.
Yeah, but that was pretty cool. My my aunt Auntie Mary, she sent me a message. She sent me a picture of Kurt chilling with the bloody sock.
Yeah,
and she said, "I'll see your sock and raise you," with a picture of KP with the blood all over his face. Shout out to Auntie Mary. And it's just, KP is just so much fun, man. Like, even when he doesn't quite have it from the field tonight, like he's there being as physical as a 7'3" string bean can be. Gets to the line 14 times, mixing it up with guys all around the rim, and just catches a Batase elbow right to the forehead, immediately bursts open. He's on the floor, gets up, runs to the locker room, comes back with like a hilariously sized bandage on his head, blood still all through his scalp, hits 1 of 2 free throws. I don't know if you caught the Derek White audio, the game time audio, but he was yelling at KP. He was like, "KP, if you hit these free throws, you're a legend, man. You're a legend." So that was just pretty cool to see that. They're like, everybody in the Garden loves KP. Everybody on the Celtics love KP. It's so weird that he had like a bad reputation as a teammate coming into this, because it didn't work out with Luka.
And honestly, he's talked a little bit about like he was immature during that time frame, and I know when he was in New York, even before Dallas, like there were some like off the court stuff that it could probably be dug up that wasn't great or didn't look great. So I think part of it's probably just his own maturity, and maybe that's just what getting sent to Washington does to you, where it's like, oh,
Right.
this is the other version of my career. Is
This is what it could be.
I went from MSG to playing with Luka, where we're supposed to be the foreign version of Stockton and Malone, to now I'm in Washington. Like,
Right.
nah. This can't be how I go out. And so now you see this version of KP, which is probably one of those things in life where we probably don't get this version of KP if he doesn't go to Washington first, right? If he doesn't
Mhm.
have that moment to kind of dig himself back out from wherever he was, right? And now
Yeah.
we get to reap the benefits that I'm sure Knicks fans and Mavericks fans are like, what happened? Where was this guy? You know, like, where was this version of Kristaps Porzingis? Amazing here for those of you watching on YouTube. We've got some of the KP bloodshots that are going around here, and it's just so perfect that this was him, and the way he responded and came back out. Greg, I think the funniest part was the streaks of blood that were
Yeah.
in his hair. It was like he had a bad hair dye job.
It was so great. I want to bring up this comment here from Rob version 1. Shout out to Rob, who's always commenting, liking the videos. Appreciate you, man. He says, would be nice if in game 3, where it's not a Celtic gets injured, busted open, etc., the Magic keep out physicaling the Celtics. Not sure I agree with that, but somebody on the Celtics needs to send a message and lay someone on the Magic out. That's what I want to bring up here, Will. Do you think in game 3 that the Celtics actually need to send a message with like a hard foul, or do you think they just need to keep whooping that ass and get out of the series in 4?
I do not want them to send a message in any way. Like everything, and we knew the Magic would be physical. This is why I wanted to play the Hawks, right? Like, I wanted to play the Hawks specifically for this reason. We're beating either team, but the physicality, which, to be honest, like, without Jalen Suggs and even without Mo Wagner, I'm gonna put air quotes here for YouTube crowd, physicality that the Magic are bringing is just them hacking. Like, that's all it is. They're just
Right.
hacking all the time and just seeing what they can and cannot get away with. There was a stretch in this game where Corey Joseph committed 3 fouls in 2 minutes and none of it got called. He shoved Al Horford. He basically, just threw his body in front of Jaylen Brown on a fast break. Like, they're just seeing what they can get away with. So as far as the Celtics responding, no, the Magic aren't worth a response is kind of where I'm at. Like,
I
what's
feel
that
you on
going to
that.
do?
Yeah.
What's that going to do for us?
And I would agree with Rob that in game 1, I think the Magic were the more physical team, but I think tonight the Celtics were clearly the more physical team. We out-rebounded them. That's always a good stat to take a look at. Out-rebounded them 57-47. We won the offensive glass battle 13-7 there. So I just think,
Second chance points 20-10.
Yep. I just think the Celtics tonight, the physicality, especially impacting the ball and ball handlers, that they set the tone, right? The Magic kept hanging around because they have 2 young studs that, we were kind of saying, if you guys want to beat us, like, you're going to have to go 94 feet against pressure and then score against a contest. But we're going to make you guys beat us. And, if you want to pass the ball to KCP, if you want to pass the ball to Anthony Black, you want to pass I'm trying to see all the guys that missed a ton of threes. KCP 0 for 6, Caleb Houston 0 for 2, Anthony Black 0 for 2. Magic were 7 for 29 from 3 tonight, 24% there, versus the Celtics, who were 12 for 37. Celtics, again, showing they're not just a 3-point shooting team, man, right? Only 37 attempts from 3 tonight. They got to the line 33 times. So that's an interesting balance right there. 37 3-pointers.
That's kind of the Magic's
free throws.
Calling card, right? Is like them being able to limit us from, instead of shooting 45 to 53s, them limiting us to 37. That's kudos. Part of that is kudos to the Magic's defense, because the Magic's defense is legit. The other part is, once again, they're just hacking the shit out of the Celtics. They are like, I know I think they were top 3 or 4 in total fouls per game. And that's what we're seeing play out. Jaylen Brown gets the line 8 times. KP gets the line 14 times. Like you said, 33 times overall, which is very high for the Celtics team here. But I think it does speak to long-term. And this is something that I started to think about midway through this game today, Greg, that it's, even though, as I just said a moment ago, I would have preferred to play the Hawks just because it wasn't going to be as physical, wouldn't take the toll. Obviously, we've already got Tatum out for a game here. So I stand by that. But I do think the physicality with which the Magic are opening the playoffs for the Celtics and the way that their defense is forcing the Celtics to find counters, which Joe Mazzulla is loving, right? Being able
Mhm.
to think on the fly, okay, if we're not going to get 53s, what else do we do? Like for him, it's like a soccer game, right? Like I can't call a timeout and just draw something up. We got to find other ways to adjust. Like I do think there's long-term benefits talking about for this postseason for the Celtics that early on, they're already playing a game in which, hey, we're not going to be able to get 40, 45, 53-point shots up. What's our counter? And now you're even doing it without your best player. So I think there's actually some pretty solid long-term benefits for when they get to better competition that does have ways that are going to force them out of what they want to do. And that's the whole point of a 7-game series is this chess match of give and take. So I'm actually pretty encouraged of what I think this could mean for the Celtics from that perspective of getting challenged, if that's the right word for it right now.
Yeah, I'm pulling up here the Celtics fourth quarter shooting chart, right? So 10 for 21 in the fourth quarter, 48%. But I just like the balance that we're seeing here, right? We're not just bombing away from three. I think we were 3 for, what would that be? 3 for 8 from three. So 37% from three. Two huge Derek White pull up 3-pointers. But then we were just attacking the basket, man. Like Jalen's attacking the basket, D White with that nice tip that he had following up on the JB drive. And I just
Al had
like
a
what I'm,
follow up late as
yeah,
well.
Al had a great follow up there. I just like what I'm seeing from them in terms of their ability to play different styles depending on who the opponent is, right? And being able to, Luke was pretty horrible tonight.
Yeah, not a great
But
Luke game.
no, not a great Luke game, but seeing that, and the broadcast did a good job calling it out. But when the Celtics were able to just kind of like size up and size down, depending on who's subbing in or subbing out of the game, like at one point they sub in Porzingis for Pritchard, right? And then like, what team subs in a 7'3" center for
Or
a
6'1",
6'1",
6'2"
six
guy.
man of the year,
Yeah.
right? like it's just so crazy the versatility that this team has, and that they've developed that identity. That just like Jayson Tatum, their superstar, his superpower is his versatility. That's also the superpower of this roster, is the versatility throughout the roster.
Yeah, the Luke point was interesting because it seemed like KP was going to come back, but when,
Right.
who knows, maybe those stitches needed more attention than we realized. That was my one concern, was this has not been a good Luke night. And if we have to finish this game with Al, JB, Derek, Drew, and Payton, like that's a pretty small lineup to try to finish this game with. But KP was able to come back and finish it out. And so, looking ahead here, Greg, now that Celtics have this 2-0 lead, game 3, Friday night, as we mentioned at the top, Jayson Tatum's wrist injury is going to be day to day. So this is going to turn into, I don't even want to say what I was going to say here, but it's just going to be something we have to monitor kind of like each game, figure out whether he's going to play or not. Right now, my gut is you're up 2-0. I think you just take the Friday game and you see where you're at. And I would hope that he actually sits out. I'm sure for him, it's killing him to have played 114 straight playoff games and now miss your first one. But if we're looking at the long term here and knowing that, it's not obviously unrealistic that this series is done by Sunday, right? And then the next series wouldn't start until the following Saturday, Sunday, depending on, how the schedule plays out with these other series. Like, I think if you're the Celtics and if you're Jayson Tatum, even though it's going to kill you, I think getting this game tonight should be evidence that you play game 3 and listen, the Magic might get that game and they're going to play with the desperation that you're not going to be able to match. And it's going to come down to probably does Wendell Carter make a couple threes and does Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hit 2 or 3 threes that he missed tonight? Right. It's going to probably come down to that. But if you're the Celtics, I think you live with those odds and the squad you got and you don't force it with Jayson Tatum.
Yeah, I agree completely. I wouldn't play Tatum until we need to. And I think that would, up 2-1 in the series. If that's that's like a decent chance that would happen anyway. The Celtics could drop game 3, as you mentioned, the desperation that the Magic are going to be playing with at home, first playoff game. Role players typically play better at home anyway. So I'd sit Tatum. I would definitely sit Tatum, especially, like you said at the beginning of the pod, man, it takes a lot for this dude to miss any games. And the fact that he sat this game out tonight was pretty surprising. I just kind of assumed he was going to be playing, to be honest with you. I was like, oh, Tatum's not going to miss any time. So I was pretty surprised when I saw that, when I turned the TV on. I did want to talk about Payton Pritchard, though, because, Payton Pritchard,
6th man of the year.
6th man of the year. What were your thoughts on Payton Pritchard's first ever appearance as the official 6th man of the year for the NBA?
I just think it's so cool. I think watching his development has been really cool for us to see, right? Because I think he came in and he immediately kind of made an impact as a rookie. If you can go back, and I think he get hit in the face or something, or he broke his nose, or he had some type of face, there was some injury he had. I can't remember what it was.
Rookie year, he hurt his knee.
Oh, he hurt his knee at that time. Yeah. And that's kind of slowed the momentum, right? But there was a big Payton Pritchard push early in his rookie year.
Yeah, we were telling Marcus Smart to watch his back.
Right. Exactly. And it seemed that at one point it kind of slowed down. I was like, all right, let's hit the brakes a little bit. But it was like, okay, we found something. There's something there with Payton Pritchard. And then as you go through because his first year was Stevens the coach. Am I doing that correctly, Matt? Or was Udoka the coach's first year?
I don't remember. It was either Udoka's first year or Stevens last year.
Yeah, I think it might have actually been Udoka's first year. But either way, Payton kind of went through, over these last couple of seasons, especially from the Udoka to the Mazzulla change. Like, he was getting time in the NBA Finals in 2022, right?
Right.
And then you go to the next year which
was Ime's first year, which was his second year, right? So his first year would have been under Stevens.
Yeah, exactly. So he's had 3 different coaches, right? And so then you go from Udoka, where it kind of seemed like he was a Udoka guy, let's call it, and he was getting minutes in the finals. Part of that was we had like a 7-man rotation. We had no other options.
Yeah,
it was him or Daniel Tice, and so then you get to Mazzulla, where the first year just doesn't really click, right? And it's just like he's getting a lot of DNP
playing behind Brogdon. We brought in Brogdon to be that guy.
Right. And he's getting to the point where he's like, listen, I just want to play. Like I basically requested a trade, basically. You know what I mean? Like I want to play. And then you get to last year where he starts to morph into a weapon for this team. And then this year, just kind of taking it to the next level. And so to see him come from all the way from that to now 6th man of the year, and in a series where we've talked about, even without Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner, like the Magic are still a pretty big and physical team. Like this is still somewhat of the type of team that you would consider that he might struggle against, and he's still impacting this game, right? He's 5 of 11 for this game, 3 of 6 from the 3-point line, has 14 points and 3 rebounds. And one of the things that I think he did really well, and we talked about the Celtics having to find a different way to play, his dribble pressure, I think, is something that really shifts the Magic defense and puts a little bit of extra pressure on them. And he's one of the few guys that we have that I think really, really does that well. And so overall, great first night as the official 6th man of the year for Payton Pritchard.
Yeah, and he was 3 for 6 from 3. And if my memory serves me right, 2 of those misses were heaves, right? So I think he was really
By the way, we're really searching for that Payton Pritchard buzzer beater. Like,
but when it hits, bro, it's
gonna go nuts. But we've been searching for that since I think he hit one like game 2, game 3. It was like, we're right back. He hits it every time. I don't think he's hit one since.
Yeah, that's okay though. And it's great to see him get recognized, and by a landslide too. He pretty much doubled up Malik Beasley. Ty Jerome got, I think, like 90 votes. Pritchard had like close to 500. I was actually checking the Cavs box score just to see how Jerome did, because he played really well in game 1. So Jerome's, game 1, he really proved that he's really that type of guy. He was 2 for 8 tonight, 6 points from Jerome. And that's kind of what you get out of these like 6-men candidates, right? Is can they swing a game in a series? I think what makes somebody special as the 6th man is when they can bring that consistently. And I think that's what made Payton Pritchard so special this year and why he's so deserving. We were tracking early in the season the amount of games where he had 3 or more 3-pointers, 4 or more 3-pointers. And then at some point we're just like, I can't even keep count anymore. He's just like averaging 4 3-pointers a game. Like, what am I even supposed to do with this? So it's just great to see him. And then, to your point about him being undersized, he did a great job being physical, getting up in Paolo's jersey, Franz's jersey, anytime that he was the closest man to the ball handle, bringing it up, he was doing a great job just picking them up and being the pest that he is. When he came into the league, I loved comparing him to Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet and their ability to be impactful as undersized defensive point guards, right? And I thought,
did you hear his comments the other day?
No, I didn't. What did he say?
He specifically referenced that, Kyle Lowry and Marcus Smart are guys that he looked to figure out how to be impactful at his size.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. You can see it in his game, right? And to see him get to this level where everybody in the Garden loses their shit anytime he does anything. He comes, like when he was picking up Paolo full court and he was guarding him for the full 24 seconds, the Garden was standing on their feet, giving him a standing ovation, man. Like they just love the guy. And it's great to see him, being someone that was borderline requesting a trade to being beloved by the entire city. It's just awesome to see for him.
Yeah, he's just a walking energy boost when he's at the Garden, right?
Yep.
And so now he joins, you mentioned Malcolm Brogdon, one of the most recent Celtic to win Sixth Man of the Year, Kevin McHale, 2-time winner, and then Bill Walton as well. So now the 4 different Celtics that have all won the NBA's Sixth Man of the Year. So coming up, guys, Friday night is going to be Game 3 in Orlando. Scheduling for just Greg and I here. We're going to be away for the weekend at our guy Joe Higgins' wedding. Joe Higgins is his soon-to-be wife, Erica Lovin. Shout out to you guys. We'll be in California for the weekend, so we won't have anything following Game 3. We'll be back Monday, so sometime Monday, I'm sure we'll have either a series recap for you guys, or we will recap Games 3 and 4 collectively and preview Game 5 at that time. So we will have that set up for you. But Greg, one last thing that I wanted to ask you here earlier. I mentioned earlier that Joe Mazzulla had some drunk Little League dad energy for me when he was yelling at Jayson Tatum to get up.
Yeah.
And it started to make me think, have you given any thought to the type of sports dad that you're going to be with James? And we don't know if maybe James won't like sports, but given the fact that you're his father, I'm his godfather.
And he's a tank.
And he's a tank. Like it's already lining up in our favor that he's gonna have some type of sports going on. So I did start thinking about just like, I don't know if you're gonna pull any cards from Joe Mazzulla's playbook as far as how you want to behave as a sports dad, but I was just curious if you thought about it at all.
I honestly haven't thought that far ahead, but I would imagine, as long as I don't have to deal with referees, I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem for you. I might need to. I mean, I'm going to be at a lot of these games anyways, but I might need to be there as a buffer and just chill you out a little bit because you.
No, but I'm like really set on being a good example for James and like showing him how to deal with big emotions, something that I've had trouble dealing with my entire life. So I'm hopeful that all the work that I'm doing on myself. I'm able to teach him how to intervene early in his life so it doesn't get to the point where those big emotions become a problem as he's an adult.
Yeah, I like that. Let's strive for not getting thrown out of his 7-year-old hoops league. Let's strive for that.
I think that's a very low bar that I can hit.
Baby steps. We'll get there. All right, that's gonna do it for this post-game episode here of Green with Envy. Again, Celtics 2-0 lead on the Orlando Magic. Game 3 coming up on Friday night. We'll have to wait and see the status of Jayson Tatum for that game. We will be back with you sometime on Monday recapping Games 3 and 4. And if there is a Game 5, we will set that up. Otherwise, we will do a series recap and then look around at the rest of the NBA. Greg, any other thoughts here before we send the people out?
Shout out to Jaylen. I don't even know if we talked about Jaylen enough, man, but he was
we
special
probably didn't
tonight.
To be honest.
Yeah,
but
he was special tonight. Very happy to see Jaylen have that moment. I hope that his knee's okay because he was definitely favoring it at the end of the game. Shout out to you, Jaylen. You carried the squad.
All right, that'll do it, guys. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.